Hello, everyone. Welcome to season five, episode number three of the P.W.P Sessions podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Figueroa. Today, my guest is Meghan King, and we're going to dive right into the conversation about herself and her work. Hi, Meghan. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, how would you describe yourself or define yourself?
In life or in writing?
Yeah, and in general, in terms of who you are
In
and,
general?
in your writing.
So, um, I like to read, I like to write a lot. Writing for me is an outlet, um, just to express myself, and I feel like it gives me a voice where, for a long time I didn't have a voice. Um, I'm very involved in my church. That like my faith is really, it's really helped develop me through a lot of things in my life. I'm very family oriented. I'm fun and outgoing. I like to, um, do things in nature, hike. Um, I'm a talker.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now, when you started writing, did you start writing when you began your faith journey, or was it after, or before, rather?
Um, so writing has always like been on my heart since I was a kid.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say before,
Okay.
I feel like um it's a gift that God gave me, to um be a voice for myself and also for other people, to encourage other people, inspire others to use their voice, if that makes sense.
Right,
That like everyone's voice like has purpose and is validated.
right. When you started writing, like, what were the first subjects that you started writing about?
Um, so I started writing at more recently in the last few years. I got back into writing, dealing with a lot of relationship issues, um, a lot of trauma like I went through as a kid. It just helped me process. A lot of it did have to do though with like domestic issues, and things I had been going through with an ex. Um, so for as like light and bubbly as my personality is, I don't know how to sugarcoat my writing. I just get it's very raw and very real and to the point, if that makes sense.
Right,
And I think a lot of the things I've been through, I think it's been to um grow and mold me into the woman I am today. God uses everything that we go through. It's all for his greater purpose, greater good. Um, and when I left, so in 22, I left my ex-fiance. Um, and sorry, I haven't talked about this in a while. So in 22, at the beginning of the year, things were very difficult between us. We had gotten to a very bad argument, and um, I knew one morning that January that I had to leave. It had culminated over a couple weeks
right,
that God had placed it on my heart to leave, um, and that I needed to leave for my safety and my future. Um, I was scared to do that. As a woman, um, where we overlook things. Um, and we tend to glorify the good. And I had gone on a retreat with the ladies from church, and they prayed over me because I was broken. I was just a complete shell of a person, and when it finally came to the point that I knew I was gonna leave, that morning, January 18, 2022, I was getting ready for work, and I was crying, and I said to God, if I'm doing this, I need to do this with you. I'm doing this with you. I can't do this without you. Um, I'm a planner, and I like to, I saw a certain future for myself, and I knew I was walking into the unknown. And I knew that there were so many questions that I had unanswered, but I put everything into God's hands, knowing that there was so much more ahead of me than what I was leaving behind.
That's,
Yeah.
that's excellent. The fact that you made that decision, for your own personal mental, spiritual well-being, things of that nature, that I'm sure that wasn't an easy decision, but the fact that you chose to make that decision, speaks volumes, and the fact that, you were leaning on God through the whole process. Um, how, how did you use your writing in order to process what you were dealing with?
So I hadn't written in a long time. I had been involved in the school newspaper years ago at William Patterson, and as a teenager, I used to write, but it had been years, since I had written, and I had felt like I lost my voice. It kind of got lost along the way, and when I made that decision to help help me through it, I just went full force into writing. I just threw myself back into it, knowing that I had made a decision my own mother hadn't had the strength to make. And I thought of a lot of, other people who had walked in a similar path that didn't have, that strength to walk away. And so the first piece that got published, it was for New Jersey Bard's Poetry Review 2022. When I left, I had just looked for different writing groups to be a part of, workshops. Started looking into submissions, um, because I felt it was really on my heart, like God calling me to, full steam ahead and just put my heart on the paper. And I did. And it's been a really um beautiful journey. Difficult, but you know, um on the other side of like that chaos there is hope.
Right, right. And what do you hope to accomplish with your writing? Like what message would you like to give to your audience, and maybe specifically towards women through your writing?
That there's hope. There's always hope. There's always hope. With God, anything and everything is possible. Um Life is scary, and it can be intimidating. Um whether it's a relationship or a lot of the things I also write about is like anxiety, depression, mental health. Um there there's always a silver lining. There's always a silver lining, and everyone's voice matters. You know, whether it's a similar enough story, with someone who's been in an emotionally abusive relationship, or someone who's struggles with different mental health issues, or what have you, or who just struggles in general there's always a light at the end. There's always hope. Um there's always that silver lining, and God's always there. We're never alone.
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. At what point did you make the connection between your writing and realizing that that your writing was a gift from God for you to help, reach out to others?
Mm, That's a good question. I would I think I made that connection between the two, between the writing and using my voice, and that it was God pushing me, like, full steam ahead when I made that decision to leave. And that because before that, I hadn't been looking into writing. I hadn't been looking into submissions. I hadn't been looking into a writing community. Um, that hadn't been on my, radar or anything like that in years.
Right,
And yeah, it was when I went through what I went through, and looking into those different things within the writing community and what I was writing about, that I knew it was God behind it, 100%. I joke and say, like, God gave me a big mouth for a reason. Like, I've always been that person where I've never been afraid to speak my mind, regarding, when I feel like things aren't right. Or speak, my mind. I've always been that person. Whether it's for me or someone else, I've always been that way.
do you have any subjects in particular that you like writing about more than others, or do you just write as you're inspired?
Um, I feel like I write as I'm inspired.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly poetry. I do write sometimes creative nonfiction, but most of the time it's like as I'm inspired, or um just different things I'm going through. I have tried to write fiction. I have taken a writing workshop on fiction, but it's pretty much, in the moment.
Right, right. And who or what would you say helped you to develop your skills as a writer?
Um, So I've been a part of different writing groups, Arts by the People out of Madison.
Mhm.
They hold once a month writing workshops and open mics. I like doing open mics. I've done it with them and a boot and coffee shop local to me. I've done open mics there. Um, I've done online writing workshops with Currencia Press. They offer those once in a while.
Mhm.
I did a writing workshop with Wilkes-Barre University. That wasn't poetry. It was more of it had to do with like writing our own fables and
Right.
whatnot, just to like hone like my writing skills. What else? Mostly it's been through Arts by the People out of Madison. They've been a really like important part of my writing journey. They've held writing workshops. I took twice in the spring of 22 and then 23 at the Morristown Library. And
Mhm.
that's a really great organization too, because it's a nonprofit. So all like the programs they offer are free to the community.
Excellent, excellent. Now, have you published any of your own books, or have you just done like submissions, like individual submissions to different places?
So I've been working on my own manuscript the last couple years. I have not submitted it for publication. Um Why? Probably because I feel like it's not done. There's really only like about 40 pages of it. So mostly it's been just like individual submissions to like different publishers.
Right. Excellent, excellent. Now, which poets inspire you? Do you have any favorite poets?
That's a good one. I hmm I do like Ginsberg. I took a class on him in college. Um and I apologize, I don't remember the title, but the
Mhm.
one he wrote for his mother, the one that was inspired by his mother, that one I really loved. Um Diana de Prima, I think that was her name. She was also part of like the Beat movement. Um No one in particular. And I apologize that I don't have a in particular one.
Oh, no worries.
But I respect the art. You know, um, most of the things I read, I think would be independent.
Right,
Nothing like really contemporary. Mostly it would just be like independent, like anthologies.
right. That's excellent. That's excellent. What would you say motivates you as a writer?
To be that voice for other people,
Mhm.
and to encourage other people. Um, because in doing so for others, it's a reminder to myself that at the end of the day, God's with me. I don't know
Right.
if that makes sense or not,
Mhm.
but being that for others, and that encouragement, and to use my voice, because my voice is just one of many stories, of similar stories. And again, a lot of people don't feel like they can share or that it matters,
Right.
you know. So I'd say that's my inspiration.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And how important would you say it is for you to ensure that you're representing yourself in your totality through your writing and through your sharing of your poetry? Like with all the things that make you who you are, how important is it to you that when you're writing your work or sh sharing your work, that you're representing yourself in your fullness?
I don't hold back.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, and I don't know how to sugarcoat, and I don't know how to filter. So it would say to me, it's very important to be 100%, in my writing, especially because um I do want to, stress the importance of, everyone's voice mattering.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that because I'm a firm believer in one of the things in having people connect with you, is that it's important to be transparent, because you never know who may have experienced what you've experienced. The experiences may
Mhm.
not be exactly the same. They could be the same, or they could be similar, but your transparency makes the difference, because people are able to relate to you. And when the person or when people see your authenticity, it'll cause them to gravitate to you more. And you're able to make that connection, and you're able to reach people with the message that you have to share. So I'm a firm believer in the importance of being transparent. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. There's no need to filter anything in writing. Not at all. Just throw it out there 100%.
Absolutely. And in regards to your faith, how important is it to you that you're making sure that that you're um I don't know if represent is the right word, but making sure that your faith is seen in all that you do, and concerning your art, because as a believer, you want to ensure that you're glorifying God through your gifts and talents, and that you're moving in the purpose for which He's called you. How important is it to you that your that your faith is made known through your art?
So for me, it's very like it's paramount that I either mention my faith in some way, whether it's I directly speak on my faith, or I've used different not analogies, but I've used different like phrases and imagery that reflects back to my faith. Especially in my first like beginning works, when I first left my ex-fiance. Um, the first few it was definitely reflected, the fact that I left with my faith and that I had left, with it being in God's hands. So especially because it's God is the only way I've made it through anything. Anything I've been through. Whether I stress it directly or, with imagery just because of the writing craft.
Right.
Um, I do find it important, because we are meant to be that light for other people.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Because I'm a believer myself, and and in terms of writing, it's not necessary to mention God and Jesus in every poem, literally, but it's just a matter of being secure in your faith to the point where if people ask you, how do you write, or who helps you write, or what gives you the strength to write what you write, and to just, just to push through whatever it is you're going through, you'll be able to have that confidence to say, you know what, I can only do this with God's help. God gave me the ability to write. God gave me the ability to express myself, and it's because of God that I'm able to articulate my experiences, um, for others to read, so that way they can know that, if God made it possible for me to speak on this and to get through whatever situations I'm dealing with, that he can do the same for them, in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And not every poem that I've written has um been about my faith, or I try to be cognizant also of other experiences I've had, and when
Right,
I write about those experiences, that I do it in a way that ref that like reflects God, if that makes sense, or
right,
like, because when you're a creative, you have so much in your hands and such an ability in your hands. And there's all kinds of writing. I want to say clean writing, if that makes sense.
right,
You,
right,
like, I try to do it in a way that honors like honesty, but in a way that honors my faith as
right.
well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a way to write about different subjects or experiences without, compromising, what you believe. um, and that it makes it clear what you stand for, which is why when I write, I try to write about different things, whether or not I mention God directly or indirectly, it's the fact that, whatever I choose to write about, I try to have a variety of what I'm talking about, so that way, even if a person reading what I write can only relate to one thing I have to say, then I know that I'm able to reach them. But, as far as my writing as a whole, anybody that reads my work can pull something out of it, but there will be
Hmm.
no question that God is the source of it. He's the source of my ability to create and express myself in the end of the day.
Yeah, to like have that integrity like as a writer.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. and and,
Yeah.
and that's what that's the goal at the end of the day, to make sure that our gifts are glorifying him, as much as possible, and it's not about it's not about doing it perfectly, but it's about doing it with intention, knowing that you
Hmm.
have a message to carry that others may need, and
Hmm.
if we only reach one person, then that one person makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what we're meant to be, is to be that light. So again, it's a powerful, thing God's entrusted to us,
Right.
to be a believer. And again, to be that light in a world that needs it desperately.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if you could collaborate with any poet, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Living or deceased? Hmm, that's a good question. I've never really thought about that one before. Um, but I would say just because I think of similar enough backgrounds would be Maya Angelou
Mhm.
because of her difficult upbringing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like with her, what she's been through and what she walked through and what she did with her life,
Mhm.
uh, you know, in spite of everything, you know, she became who she was, to culture and hope for women and really, American society. The things that
Absolutely.
she did, you know, um, she overcame so much and she lived a beautiful life and she inspired millions of people. So I would definitely say I would love to, that would have been something to like definitely have had a conversation with her, you know.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, she's definitely one of the people that I consider to be one of the pioneer poets, and she's definitely been an inspiration for me for sure. Definitely admire her work. Now, at this time, you're welcome to share some of your poetry with our audience. So, at this time, the floor is yours.
Sure. Are you able to share your screen?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Let me try that. Second. Okay, I don't know if I did that right. Wait, hold on a second.
I have actually like the books next to me. So just give me one moment and I can
Okay.
if that's easier, I could just read from like directly from the books.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So this is Sovereign Hope. This was published in New Jersey Bard's Poetry Review 2022. Sovereign Hope. A vast chasm divides fear, uncertainty, and the illuminated path towards the unknown. Head held high, trembling, guided by a fierce, unwavering faith, I trust this journey set before me, yearning for hope, prosperity, independence, carrying a cross and following truth, an honest, loving leap for self, for respect, for self love and honor, clinging to what is right and true, heavy hearted, placing one step ahead of the other, weeping, gathering dirty laundry, leaving behind a shared life, the unknown shining bright with sovereignty. In my bones, from the depths of my soul, a voice cried out, a voice I believed silenced. Growth, healing, an uneasy road needing to be traveled, leading to peace. Growth occurs in stages, the smallest of increments. Integrity and dignity can be found. Burdens in hand, faith at heart. I descended step after step towards my future, the unknown offering sovereignty, trusting, honoring, loving myself and grace, journeying towards light, truth, led by hope. I was really proud of that when that got published. Let's see. Apologies, just bear with me.
Oh, no worries. That was a great piece, by the way.
Thank you so much. Um, This one is from not Ghosts but Spirits Volume 1 from Corencia Press. I'm sorry. I um thought it was going to be able to be pulled up on the other screen. Oh,
Is there a site where it's posted on that I could go to?
no,
I could possibly share the screen
no,
on my end.
no. I found it.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. That's all right.
249. Okay. So this was the next piece that got published. Again, it was from Corencia Press. This is called A Curse Broken. Decades would pass before I found validation within myself, struggling with inadequacy due to childhood abandonment, never quite feeling worthy of love, feeling shame for my anxiety, depression. Validation comes from a steadfast faith, even when I feel I am sinking in doubt and anxiety, which becomes depression. I hold to God, knowing that all things come to pass for good, not to harm me, rather to help me prosper. My journey was meant to break a generational curse, changing the tide of accepting toxicity, disrespect, not allowing addiction nor alcoholism to continue in my family line, not tolerating emotional abuse and standing on my own, of having the courage to say enough. Society puts value on a woman in a relationship, just part of a whole, not whole by herself, not when she stands on a firm foundation. I packed up a dirty laundry basket, weeping to myself, knowing the decision I had made. I walked into a dark winter morning, knowing what I was leaving behind, uncertain of what lay ahead, just that I had immense faith. I never looked back. I am the woman my mother did not have the strength to be. And then this one in the same edition, this one's called Dear Friend. Dear friend, grasping to pain is all you've known. I recognize it in those eyes. I've had that look too, knowing to expect, tripping over false hope, desiring more, yet not believing you're worthy of a better life, of joy, adjusting to the uncomfortable. Fear lies in the unknown. Even if the unknown could bring a happiness deserving of this life. I've experienced that same disappointment in the abandonment of trust, abandonment from loved ones, survival, and fighting alone. You're not alone in this, not alone in your struggles. I see you, and by your side, I'll help you carry your burdens. Mm, Do we have time for one more?
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay. This was published in the Winter Anthology 2023 from Corencia Press. Stone by Stone. Once I was drowning in anxiety and depression, a depth of darkness of which I didn't see a way out, sitting at the bottom of a well, dragging myself out of the sediment, reaching and clinging to the mossy walls for leverage, climbing slowly, willfully, stone by stone, scraping my palms. Anguish a reminder to not grow weary, to fight for freedom. Strength with each calloused scar. Hope a shining beacon into the cavernous dark. I imagined peace and new beginnings. As my hand reached over the edge of the well, urged onward by an unseen warmth, reassurance in a future of joy and purpose.
Wow, excellent. Those are all excellent poems. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Do you have any, I know you mentioned you're working on a book at the moment, but are there any other projects like submissions or any other projects that you would like to mention to the audience?
Um, so I have written a few recent poems. I had submitted they didn't get accepted, but however, we as a writer, we every rejection like it's a learning experience. Um I did write one for I did write one in like honor or like to reflect upon Veterans Day, this past Veterans Day.
Mhm.
And what else? There's a few different like writing contests and whatnot that are coming up. Lit Fox Review and Arts by the People. They have rolling submissions for their online literary magazine, so I'll be submitting to that as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And do you have any events coming up, like any open mics coming up that you would like to announce?
So I don't know the date exactly, but the third Thursday of the month at in Coffee Company, that is their literary open mic. So
Oh,
I will be doing that. And then the first Wednesday of the month, Arts by the People has their writing workshop and open mic in Madison at the community center.
oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Now, where can you be found on social media?
Um, Meg, so on Instagram, it's Meg M underscore King. That's my Instagram, and then on Facebook, you could just search Megan King. I have been, and I will say this, I know it's very important as a writer, so I'll stress this to other writers, make a website. I've procrastinated. I'm in the process of doing the edits, but make a website to show your writing and your success. That was something I learned in a writing workshop.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. I just put together one recently, through WordPress. But it's also good to have it, professionally done as well, depending on what your resources are, you could go the professional route, but you can also do something in the interim, like set up
Yes.
something on WordPress or what's the other one? I think Square. I think Square is an
Um,
option.
I think I have mine. I was doing edits through WordPress. I think
Okay.
there's that, and I think another is GoDaddy. That might
Yeah,
just be for businesses.
possibly.
But oh yeah, I'm all about like DIYs. There's nothing wrong with like doing yourself on WordPress or anything like that. Just to showcase your publications and what you're about.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Whatever you can do in the interim is fine. As long as it's, put organized and put together, as
Mhm.
professionally as possible, until you can step up at a later date.
Yeah.
As long as you're putting yourself out there, having everything in one
Mhm.
place where people can just, find you and see everything that you have to offer, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, especially when you want to when going to submit, that allows the publications to see, your work as a whole.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Megan, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I enjoyed hearing your poetry, and I'm sure our audience has enjoyed it as well. And I look forward to chatting with you again real soon.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a happy new year. It was lovely to talk to you as well.
Likewise, thank you so much. You have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.